Hi, this is Robert Sinn at the 2024 Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver, Canada, speaking with Tony Moreau of American Eagle Gold. Tony, you guys have had a tremendous last couple of years. I mean, I look back at the chart, few cents in 2022, and now you're at an all-time high here this weekend, I think 42 or 43 cents. How does it feel to be CEO of a company with a share price at an all-time high?
Feels great. It's nice to do right by shareholders. Obviously, it's stressful when it's down. You want to make sure your shareholders make money. That's the name of the game. So it feels good, but I still think we have a lot of room to go. We're $45 million valuation, and like I said during the presentation, we got grade, we got scale, we're in a great jurisdiction. I think we have a lot of room for price discovery. So I've noticed a lot of big investors, long-term investors are coming in. So like last year, I think we became a bit of a trade. We traded down, but we had a pending private placement that was closing. This year's different. And the people that are selling their stock thinking they're getting out of a trade, the people buying the stock are getting there long term. So my hope is the supply is going to be drying up, and we got a lot more room up to go.
So you have Teck, a major mining company with a 19.9% stake in American Eagle. How did the Teck deal come together, and can you tell us about your partnership, with Teck?
Yeah, so November 7th, 2022, we came out with that robust drill hole, kind of out of nowhere, 125 meters of 1.05% copper equivalent from surface. And that morning, I got calls from 4 different mining companies. 2 of them ended up signing CAs with us, and Teck actually, was the most aggressive, and they went to site. They spent 6 months. They went in their data room. They went to site. They actually checked out all the core in Penticton, and come around to May, they actually signed the deal. So they had their guys working on it. And they don't make dumb decisions. They've been part of a lot of big grassroots discoveries in Canada, and BC's their backyard, and they're looking for more copper. So having them involved is really important. People always, that's a good question about what they do. People always ask us that, but Charlie Gregg, who's part of GT Gold, Neil Prowse is our project lead. Like, they've been part of a lot of discoveries, and what Teck told us, they said our job's to operate and build mines, and we put trust in the property and the people. So he said we don't want to let them kind of do their job. We're not going to be too hands-on. We don't have to be part of a technical committee. But they asked us one thing. They said, do that big step out in hole 2309 of 750 meters. He goes, do us a favor, drill there, because we want to see if there's real scale there. And we hit on that hole, and I think they're very happy about it. And they are right now offering a lot of technical expertise on this off-season geology work. But I'd have to defer to Charlie and Neil to really get into the details of what that is. But I know right now they're pretty active helping those guys target for the drill holes for 2024.
Great. So, in Canada, it's important to have a dialogue with the First Nations, in the area of the project. Can you tell us about your partnership with the First Nations at NAC?
Yeah, another great question, Rob. Like, Lake Babine Nation is the First Nations community, and I don't know if a lot of people realize, but in BC, they got like hard borders. It's a little bit different than Ontario, where you can sometimes have 2 or 3 different groups, on a project at the same time. So it makes things easier in working with one group. And, the first thing we did when we got this property, before we ever started drilling, we called them up, and we got through to them, and we introduced ourselves. And we said, if you guys don't want us to be here, we don't want to be here, but we want to start off the relationship well. And for us, I think the most important thing is, from the feedback we've had, is just communication. We let them know anytime there's a news release coming out. We talk to them all the time. It's just about relationship building and having them, trust us. And I tell people a lot, it's the same kind of foundation that I have with relationship with my wife. It's about honesty and communication. And if you do that, I think the partnership will really thrive. And they told us, they said, we want mines. We just don't want to have it affect our salmon. Salmon is very sacred to Lake Babine Nation, as well as a lot of other First Nation communities. And our mines away from that, and they want prosperity, they want jobs, and that's what these mines provide, especially with forestry kind of disappearing, especially in BC.
Okay. So in the junior mining industry, you're only as good as your last drill hole. And you guys had a great last one, hole 17, 302 meters of 1.09% copper equivalent. Very impressive hole. In total, I think it was more than 600 meters, about 0.75% copper equivalent. How do you top that? And how do you raise the bar in 2024?
I'll tell you how you top it. Every single drill hole we've had, it was mineable copper. that drill hole followed up, 7 other really high grade drill holes. So it was not the first one and it wasn't an anomaly. But the best way to top that is you drill based on geology. And a smart man once told me, I said the best way to find the best pathfinder for copper and gold is copper and gold. And
It's pretty logical.
this is the first year we'll be drilling based on geology. We have a really smart geologist that's part of our ore group. And he came to my office and he opened the door. He said, Tony, he goes, people don't realize this. He goes, pretty confident this is going to be a mine. And he says, what investors don't know, which you have to remind them, is you guys were drilling off geophysics before, never based on previous drilling. Because our first year in 2022, 6 of our 7 holes were along a really narrow fence and 4 of them were vertical. This year coming up will be the first year we're based on geology and geometry, because all of our 10 holes were east-west long holes. And put Charlie and Neil at the helm there, let them do their work. Like, the ceiling is the floor, as Michael Jordan said.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people say, well, this is a project that had 6 previous owners. It's in an area it had a lot of mining in BC. How could there possibly be a new mine there? And you guys took it over and put new eyes to it, a new interpretation to it, and you drilled deeper than, the previous operators have. You've drilled 900-meter holes, 1,000-meter holes, and you found high grade. And also, I think a lot of other previous, owners of the property, they overlooked that nice higher grade gold that's near surface. You have a very nice, near surface layer of gold there, and the copper grades get better at depth. Tell us about what your plans are. Where are you going to drill, this year, and what are your objectives?
Well, another good question. Our objective is to find more high-grade copper and gold. We know their scale. We know this is going to be a huge resource. There's a lot of tons, probably close to 1 billion back of the envelope. But the key to this is, how do you find that Highland Valley, copper mine, but something that can start really high grade? And this area that we drilled with 17 went across 11 and 8, and it's looking like we have a really high grade pocket. And that's about 300 meters by 400 by 100. So our drilling focus will be to extend that high grade zone and at the same time, increase the size of our mineralization. And as Charlie called me and told me yesterday, he said, I'm really starting to understand this geology. He goes, I would bet my left arm we can connect this to the north.
The north and south zones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's some low hanging fruit. And then you have the step outs to the southeast as well. A lot of room for growth. Tell me about the company's finances right now. And there's some conversation about, should we drill February, March because there's crews available, and even though it's higher cost, it's not that much higher cost. But I know you guys have some other thoughts on that. You want to take some time to go over the IP data. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So the IP data, there's a chargeability shoulder, IP shoulder. And when we drilled 17, we realized once you drill down that shoulder, which lines up very closely with their assays, you hit really high grade. And if you look at our technical presentation we just gave, that IP shoulder is symmetrical over to the east. So we think there's same mineralization there. And this thing's like an inner tube, wraps all the way around the Babine porphyry stock. So that's what gets me really exciting. We're just kind of at early days right now there. So we're just looking ahead. We have $5 million, $4 million's earmarked for drilling. Yeah, people want us to drill in the winter, but you know who wants to drill us in the winter? They're traders. Same people, they aren't long-term, because you wouldn't be asking someone to waste their money and drill before they have defined targets, because it just kills your cap structure. And it's about 20% more to drill in the winter. That's a $4 million budget. That's $400,000, $800,000. That's 3 drill holes less that you'd be able to drill in the summer. And each drill hole costs about a Lamborghini that you're putting in the ground. So make sure you put that Lamborghini in a good place. I don't just drive Lamborghinis off the side of a cliff for fun. So, we want the guys to do the science, the proper work, the geology. And, before you know it, it's going to be May and we're going to be drilling anyway. And what I've noticed now, which is a lot different, we got a lot of big long-term shareholders getting into the stock. So the big catalyst is coming to conferences like this, having people know that American Eagle even exists, and just dry up that supply. And I'm hearing from a lot of people that they're holding on to the stock, and they're not going to be selling us to get into a Chilean trade. They're selling other companies. So the big question for investors is, what is your entry point? And do you want to risk missing this train to try and get in and pinch pennies? So I think there's going to be a lot of attention coming on to us in the near future.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tony. Appreciate it.